Welcome. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. Thank you for joining today's webinar where we'll discuss file encryption and cloud security. Today is the third of 4 security education series webinars for clients and friends of Foster & Motley. And I'd like to thank our friends at Foster & Motley who envisioned the need for this information and have been actively involved in planning for these webinars. This is an example of an organization. When this came to me, the genesis was, we know we have clients who need better security. We know we have clients who don't follow appropriate security practices. How can we help? Hence this webinar series. Thanks for joining. So our goal in this series is to educate, to improve knowledge, and to provide practical information. This isn't about selling products or services. This is about helping everybody learn how to be a more secure person. So in the first 2 webinars, we covered the overview of securing personal data. Last week, we reviewed email security practices. Today, our topic is file encryption. Coming in just 2 days on Thursday, we'll review this very important content on password management and public Wi-Fi. So for today, file encryption and cloud security. Our agenda is short. When and why should we consider encrypting files? What is file encryption? What does it mean to protect our personal files? Why should we do it? How can we do it? And that includes both when they're stored on our computer and also when they're being transmitted. And separately, but very related, how can we use the cloud securely? Should we be using the cloud? Should we be avoiding the cloud? How can we be safe when we're using the cloud? So a bit of introduction. Many of you from years of experience in the community have known PBSI as a technology provider for hundreds of tri-state organizations and individuals. We are also the technology and security provider for Foster & Motley, hence the relationship that started this webinar series. So one of the things as CEO of PBSI, I'm very blessed to be a part of an organization where we have lots and lots of very, very experienced staff. Lots of folks have been with us for a long, long time, and I know that experience helps clients. It's from the active learning that we do every day that we share information today. So, Internet today is a very dangerous place. Those of you in attendance know this. I'll be very short with this information because I think this is well understood. PCs today are increasingly infected with malware. Keylog and phishing activities have resulted in software that's running on our PCs, and we do not know it's there, and yet it's capturing our passwords. And again, I'm not trying to be fear-mongering, simply stating the reality that we see. So today, the result of this, there are currently 2.7 billion emails available for sale on the dark web, of which 1.2 billion include exposed passwords. So if you've been on sites or registered an account with Experian or LinkedIn, Yahoo, Gmail, DocuSign, Adobe, Dropbox, Tumblr, MySpace, and 30 others, these represent hacks that were larger in size last year than Experian. So I'm going to do one short link here to a website that identifies all of the hacks that happened over the past year in size. So this 711 million, yes, 711 million accounts were made available online from one exploit. So 593 million, 457 million. These are unbelievable numbers. Scrolling down through the largest hacks of last year, we go all the way down to far down the list before we get to Experian. So there are so many, and I don't want to make anybody dizzy, but hacks appear, they happen all the time. And please don't take this as frightening information. Instead, take it as a call to action. It's very likely that possibly everybody listening to my voice right now, your email and your password, a password, has been exposed. So the point isn't to be fearful. The point is to be protected. So one of the areas where we want to talk about protection today is file encryption. So what is file encryption? Why is it important? Encryption is a term that describes data that can't be read without a private key. And the private key is a password. So encrypted data is garbled. So a file that's stored, having been encrypted, is garbled so that if you open it, you can't open it and understand anything that's in it without a password. So encryption security, there are various technologies and various levels of encryption, but generally speaking, encryption is more and more secure when you use a longer key, so that anybody who had electronic access to a document couldn't crack it if they had 10 years on a fast computer. Or they could crack it in 5 minutes with a free piece of software, which is why we recommend long and complex passwords when we're protecting something that's important. So encryption is very simple to accomplish, and it's free, and I'm going to show you an example of how you do that. So the question, what files should we be encrypting? So here's a recommendation. We encrypt files containing any personally identifiable information or protected health information that's stored on our local computer. So most of us, information about tax returns or an Excel balance sheet or other files that we may have scanned or stored that contain identifying information about us. So why would we encrypt and protect this information on our own PC when we're the only one who ever uses it? And the answer is because of the previous information that we just described, hackers are a danger. There may not be any infection on your PC today, but there is no way any of us can be assured. We put our protections in place, but we don't know what might happen a month from now or 6 months from now. And if a hacker had access to our PC, what could they learn? And if the keys to the kingdom, access to all of your account numbers and passwords are stored anywhere electronically, then the time is now to protect that. And the protection is really simple. You encrypt the file. So I'm going to do a demonstration very shortly here of exactly how to do this. It's very, very simple. When you store a file with a password, that encrypts the file. So I'll show this to you in just a moment. I also want to mention, I'll dig into this a little bit further on, that when we send files over exposed internet, we also need to make sure that the message is exposed. So the two things we want to encrypt are, one, files at rest, stored on the hard drive. They're not open, they're not being used, they're at rest. Encrypt those files if they contain important information. And when we transmit those files, so we attach something to an email, we're sending it to our accountant, we're sending it to Foster and Motley. There are three choices to do this safely. One is to encrypt the attachments and then send it. Two, to encrypt the email, I'll show you an example of that, or to use a secured file sharing site, such as Foster and Motley's Client Vault. So if you're not familiar with using Foster & Motley's Client Vault, you can put information, send it to Foster & Motley without any other protection other than using the instructions that your advisor gives you to send information to the Client Vault and then let Foster & Motley know it's there. So those are the three basic methods. Now, what I want to do is be practical about this and show you how to do this. So now I'm going to go to Microsoft Excel. If you're familiar with Microsoft Office, the procedure for what I'm about to do is exactly the same in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any Microsoft application, and other things like WordPerfect or other applications. They have a similar functionality. So this file is not encrypted. So these aren't real Social Security numbers, but they look like Social Security numbers. Before I encrypt this file, I want to show you what happened last night on my PC. Last night on my PC, I'm going to a website that, if I do this correctly, we'll see that there was a scan run. So I'm showing you an example of PBSI's online monitoring, and I'm looking for any PCs at PBSI with the name Ray in it. On Ray's PC last night, there was a scan that was run, and that scan identified, I'm going to show you if I pick the right PC. That scan last night identified that there was information on my PC that needed protection. So drilling into this, I see the information that was found on my PC last night, and that includes this file that we're about to look at. The scan run last night said there was $2,000 worth of valuable information on Ray's PC that is unencrypted. It had some Social Security numbers and some dates of birth. And if I were a PBSI technician, I can see that there are two files at risk here. One is in Ray's documents folder is a file called sample file with dummy SS numbers. And sure enough, that is the file that I just displayed in front of you a moment ago. One other thing, so you know, it also found the same thing in my recycle bin, because yesterday or recently I deleted that file or a similar file, and so it automatically goes to my recycle bin. This is important to know, that when you delete a file on a Windows PC, it doesn't just go away, it goes to your recycle bin. So you have to empty your recycle bin separately. So I'm mixing a couple of messages here, but the first thing I want to do is identify that PBS Online Scan does exactly what a hacker could do if they had access to your PC, which is why we offer this online scanning, so we can tell you which files on your PC need protection. So once you know that you have a file that needs protection, so here I am in Microsoft Excel, I'm now going to encrypt this file. So you don't have to remember these instructions. There are resources that are available with the simple Google search that will tell you how to do this. But to store this document, I'm going to File, Save As, and here's where I start doing something different. Instead of just storing it in my Documents folder with this same name, I'm going to choose More Options, and then I'm going to choose Tools, General, and I'm going to give this a password to open. And I could make my password long and complex, and then I have to retype my password. Once I've done that and saved that document, do I want to replace it? Yes, I do. Now this document has been encrypted, so if I want to go and open that file, I'm now going to go to Windows Explorer, to my Documents folder. I'll see this file, and now I can no longer open this file without knowing that password. So it's that very simple operation, saving with a password, that makes that file unavailable to a hacker. So the process is very, very easy to do. So step one, we identify which files that we may want to encrypt or should encrypt, and then we open them up and save them with a password. Voila, very simple. So fortunately, PBS offers a service where we can identify all the files you need to encrypt and help you with this process. So today, all I hope to accomplish in this respect is to identify that you should protect files that are vulnerable, and the method of storing them on your computer, encrypting them, is very, very simple. Okay, encrypt files at rest. So point two, files that are at rest on your computer are vulnerable if your computer's hacked, not in the past or in the future. Step two, though, securing information when it's transmitted, is much more, if we were on a likelihood scale of something at risk, something, my PC being at risk, average PC, I don't know, 10% of our PCs have risk of hackers getting involved, whatever the percentage is. Once I send something by internet, now that ratchets up to 90%. So everything transmitted on the internet, generally speaking, most of us send things by email. That's how we send files through the internet. We may think that's very secure, but in fact, every message going out to and from any point on the internet can be and is frequently interrupted, read, parsed, and electronic decisions are made. What kind of data has just been sent among all the locations on the internet that might have value? So this might seem really incredible and far-fetched that anybody would really go to this length, but hackers are smart and computers are fast, and this is straightforward to do. So the point is, when you send something through the internet, you must understand it is at risk. So the three ways you protect information are: one, you encrypt the attachment and then you email that encrypted attachment, or you encrypt the email itself, where the entire contents, including any attachments, are encrypted, or you send documents to a secured site. So the secured site, like Foster Motley's Client Vault, what happens when you connect to that site, it immediately starts by setting up a VPN, a virtual private network. It sets a secure tunnel so that anything sent via that secure tunnel to Client Vault is protected. No one on the internet can see anything about the content of that traffic. So I'm going to do a short demonstration now of encrypting an email. So the thing to know about an email is that no email is secure out of the box. Not Outlook, not Gmail, not AOL, not any Yahoo, any mail you might describe. When you send an email, it is not encrypted. So you think, well, why don't these vendors encrypt email? It's not that simple. They all offer options to do so, but you pay a fee, anywhere from a few dollars a month to $20 or $30 a month per email address, you can achieve this. So again, it's not the end of the world, and I encourage exploring the option for encryption. So today, those in the world who use Office 365, the monthly subscription version of Microsoft Office, for $2 a month, you can add the ability to encrypt your email. So at PBSI, we use a service similar to this, and I'm going to go to my email, and I'm going to send an email, and I'll identify how this works. So I'm going to send this from my work email address to a home email address I use infrequently, and I'm going to say this is a test, and the way I'm going to encrypt this, so the method of what I'm going to do now varies, but when I use the word encrypt, and whatever my message is, I can attach in unsecure documents to it. And when this message is transmitted, it's transmitted in a secure way so that the recipient of this message receives, instead of the file, they receive a message. This may take a moment to get here. This is a message I sent earlier to myself. I'll use this for demonstration because it's just the same. The one I just sent will show up here in a moment. But this says, you have received an encrypted message from, and to open that message, now the recipient gets a link which creates a secure VPN tunnel. They can then open the attachment and see the message inside of this encrypted email. So it's a one-step hassle for the recipient, but in most cases, once you do this one time with a recipient, then their PC can automatically remember the login, so it's not an ongoing hassle. But this is a secure method of doing it. That may not have been a really clear demonstration, but I wanted to make the point that it's generally a simple step, an additional click or an additional word like encrypt, to convert your unsecure email into a secure email. And anybody with questions about this, feel free to be in touch with us. We can give you lots of choices how to do this. But the point is, most people, I dare say, that if we contacted all the accounting firms in the world, I dare say they would identify that 80 to 90% of their clients do not encrypt the attachments that are sent to them. We've talked to just dozens of firms that deal with private information, and everybody agrees clients don't understand the importance, and they don't know how, or they don't take advantage of the ability to protect the information they're sending over the internet. So, message here, it's simple to encrypt documents, and you need to be intentional, but it's simple to encrypt emails. So I'm going to talk more tomorrow about public Wi-Fi, but I want to make this point today. Public Wi-Fi is not secure. So the email I'm sending today, sitting at my desk, is coming from our protected secure network at PBSI through a secure email process using our secured Wi-Fi and our secured network. If I were on a Delta flight or in an airport or in a Starbucks, I would do some things differently because public Wi-Fi is not secure, and the likelihood that your message might be interpreted or that your password or login information might be captured while you're sitting there at Starbucks is very, very high, much higher than you might think. I'll tell an interesting story about this in the webinar on Thursday when we focus on password managers and why you want to be cautious using public Wi-Fi. So for today, just enough to say, special caution if you're not on a private network in your home or in your office. Okay, so another thing that's related to this is we find that the simple understanding of where our files are stored on our PCs is sometimes a mystery. So I'm going to apologize in advance. Many of you will take the information I give you in the next minute and you'll say, yeah, I knew that. Really, this is really basic. And it is. But for those of you where it isn't, I'm going to have this short conversation. So we find a really common thing among folks all over is when I save a document, I don't really know where it goes, and I don't understand why it is that when I receive an attachment to an email and I save that, it goes into a different place than if I'm saving it out of my Microsoft Office. So the point here is to understand where documents are stored. It's really simple to know this, and to me, the most important concept is when saving any file, use save as instead of save. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to go back to my Microsoft application here. I'm going to open up this file that now requires a password. And I supplied the password incorrectly. So let's try this again. Yes, sorry about this. Let me supply my password correctly. Okay, so here's my document. Now I make some changes to this document and I want to save the document. So instead of clicking a save button, I always say File, Save As. Why is that? Because it shows me where it's being located. It's going into this folder. And if I want to choose a different folder, I can choose other locations to save this in. So this is, in some cases, a missing link. You will find if this came from an attachment, it might go to my downloads folder or something else. So if I want to save this in a different location, I browse to a place that I want to save this. I select the folder and I say save, which I'm not going to do in this case. So that's just a bit of information that for many of you, you'll say, yeah, you really didn't need to cover that topic. So a recommendation here for private information you want to protect is it's fine to use your documents folder on your PC. That's the default. But I might recommend that you set up a subfolder where you right-click on a document, folder name, and you say new folder, and you give it a name. This way, anything that is important that you want to protect, you store in that subfolder, and it's then really simple to know. I know where all of my protected information is. So, small recommendation, not a requirement. The purpose here is to talk about how to make sure I know where the things are stored. Okay, we're going to move on. Last topic today, and we'll be finished before 1:30, is cloud security. So when and why should I consider using the cloud to store device information? And if so, which site should I use? And do I need to encrypt those files when I store them? So there are good reasons to use the cloud. I use the cloud for things, and I'm very careful about what I use the cloud for as far as do I put my most private documents there? My most private documents? No, I don't. But why I would do it is multi-location access. So this means This means I can get to it from home, when I'm on vacation, from the office. It's stored in a location where I want access from more than one place. Very good reason to use cloud storage. Multi-device access, I want to be able to get to it from my iPad or my iPhone. I need to store that in a place where it's available from multiple locations. Critical need for availability, I cannot be without it. And if my network or my PC were down, I would need access to this document. Then there would be a reason. If I'm uncertain about backup, we've had a short conversation about backup prior to today. I hope everybody here has heard the message and knows back up your files. Do not be the one who says, yeah, I know it's important, but I'm never going to have a problem. And then that day comes and your files aren't backed up. And I've encountered some very sad people in my life. But if I'm concerned, I hope my backup is okay. I'm not really certain if it's okay. If you have a concern about that, then cloud storage will solve that, because virtually all cloud sites, I'll say all cloud sites of which I'm aware, whether it's Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft's OneDrive, they're all automatically backed up and you don't have to worry about reliability. So if you have a PC that's old and you're concerned, well, it might fail, another reason that you might consider using cloud storage. So if you decide you want to store some files on the cloud, which vendor should we choose? So there are just dozens of options, and most of them are just fine. For most of us, we'll either choose OneDrive for Business or Google Drive. So OneDrive for Business comes with Office 365. If you don't pay a license fee for Office 365, the free version of OneDrive does not encrypt documents at rest in the cloud. Google Drive does. So if you wanted a universal recommendation that works securely, Google Drive, and it's free, it's quite straightforward. We'll have a bit more information about that, but Apple iCloud, which for photos, I'm going to separate photos from other files. Photos, Apple's iCloud or Google Photos, and there are others. They work beautifully. There's no problem with them unless you're a celebrity who uses a shared or simple password, and there's been some of that. These places are secure. So photos, I wouldn't think twice about storing my photos on the cloud. My documents, I would use Google Drive or OneDrive for Business, and there are others. So do I store files that need protection in the cloud? You can, if you know that the files are encrypted there and you use a strong enough password, then it is okay. It is secure. Out of an abundance of caution, my very most sensitive documents, I do not. But you can store important and sensitive information in the cloud. But if you do, use a long and complex password. And the reason for this, I may have mentioned this, there are programs that a high school kid can download for free that you can point them at a file and say, go ahead and try and hack this file. So files don't have the same protections as email does. So email, if somebody tries to log into your email and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 failed attempts, the email host will log them off and prevent them. You've tried too many invalid attempts. Somebody's trying to open a file, no such prohibition exists. They could go through the alphabet and try every combination that can be done millions of times per second and attack a file to try and open it. So the thing that is the biggest prohibition, the thing that's most difficult to solve if you're trying to do that kind of a hack, is the longer the password, the harder it is to crack. So on a typical computer today, if you have a password that's more than 12 characters long and that file is stored in the cloud, somebody could have that till the cows come home and likely would never crack that password. So if you're going to store in the cloud, use a complex, long password. Okay, so we're finished with content today. So a summary. Today we've talked about document security principles. Encrypt files at rest if they include important information, because you don't know when a hacker will have success at compromising the PC or the place where it's stored. 2, always encrypt important files during transmission. Use the cloud securely. And then some other just very brief summaries from previous content. Make sure your documents are backed up. If you have any concern whether your PC is now or might in the future be infected, use online security monitoring. PBS offers this service very inexpensively, and it's something that there's no reason not to do. Train you and whoever else uses your PCs to understand secure behavior, some of what we're covering in this webinar series. And finally, if you have a common password, change it. Change your password, change your password. Have multiple passwords. Don't use the same password. I wonder if I've said that enough times. Know that whatever common passwords you've used in the past, they are very likely compromised, and you do not want to use any common password on a very secure document. Okay, so some of the other things that we've reviewed over the past couple of webinars: secure your desktops and laptops with appropriate antivirus, with patch management, make sure your home wireless is secure, encrypt your sensitive files, back up your files, beware on public Wi-Fi. You can know if your PCs are safe, and learn secure behavior. So we're finished with content, and I want to thank all of you who've participated not only in previous webinars, but today. I hope this information is helpful for those of you who are interested in knowing what can be done to secure information. There are services where PBSI can offer these, and again, the purpose of these webinars is not to sell services, but if you wish to have information, let us know. Webinar follow-up information for myself and our sales team. And then I want to say that in a couple of days, probably the single most important webinar we'll discuss password management. And for those of you who are in attendance, Foster & Motley has also decided to offer something that we've discussed, an in-person workshop in the Cincinnati area on Tuesday, February 27th. So details will be forwarded to those of you who've attended webinars, but this will be an opportunity to bring your laptop, bring your tablet, come in person, and actually work through setting up of a password manager. You're welcome to attend, but you'll have information about that. So I want to thank you for your attendance. We're finished today. Hope everybody has a good